Hello. It's me, Angelo Grosso. We got Dank Times Danker Thoughts, episode 61. These numbers keep getting higher and higher, and it's surprising to me every single time. What's going on, everybody? I hope y'all have been good. A little update for y'all. Papa Grosso is back home resting. It was a shit show for a couple days after he came home because, why should things be running smoothly at all, right? Why should anything good ever happen? You know what I'm saying? And you can only laugh at the absurdity of everything here. So, my father was discharged from the hospital, and my opinion, as well as his girlfriend's opinion, at least one day too soon. He was released the day after his surgery, which everybody at the hospital ward that he was on said, yes, he can go home. I was concerned because of the amount of drugs that he was on since the surgery, and I found out later that he had a spinal tap done, or whatever. I think it's called a spinal tap, is when they inject it into the spine and his whole lower half of your body goes numb, and he was talking pretty loopy and out of it, which, is not unnatural for my father. But I thought for sure he would have stayed at least a full other day. But they discharged him in the evening. And what is the first stop that my father wanted to make after leaving the hospital? Was it to stop and get his prescriptions for the medication? No. He wanted to go to the KFC AW combo fast food restaurant in downtown Renton so that he could get a big bucket of fried chicken and a big ass root beer float. And I just thought to myself, holy shit. This son of a bitch does not care. Leaving the hospital after a kidney, bladder, prostate issues, and being told over and over again about his diet and how his diabetes and his health is affecting his other issues, and how he needs to drink more water, and he needs to cut down on unhealthy foods. This motherfucker ate a bucket of fried chicken, a root beer float, and then called me later in the evening, said, it all tasted like shit, it wasn't worth it. And by the way, my father's been home a couple days now. He has eaten McDonald's for breakfast, I think, 4 out of the 5 days. So he's really taken the doctor and nurses' precautions and recommendations seriously. But anyway, back to when he was discharged originally. I talked to him about a half hour once he was home, and I told him, give me a call whenever you want. I'll give you a call in a couple hours, see how you're doing. Not even an hour or so later, I got a call from him saying, well, I fell and I broke the TV. What the fuck are you talking about, man? Well, I haven't been able to gain my balance and I'm dizzy. And somehow his girlfriend got locked out of the house and she was banging on the door to be let in, and he freaked out and jumped up and he lost his balance and just kind of shuffled forward about 15 feet and headbutted his very nice and very new Samsung Plasma TV, denting the fuck out of it, toppled over into the fireplace but jumped right back up, he said. And of course I was livid, freaking out, asking him, is he okay? Are his eyes dilated? Do you have a concussion? And he just blew me off. Oh, well, whatever. I'm fine. I'm not bruised. I'm not bleeding. The TV's fucked, though, so tomorrow morning you got to come over and take me to video only. And I was like, well, calm down. You just took a fall after leaving a hospital from surgery, and you headbutted a fucking television, and you broke it? Are you sure that you don't want to at least get checked out? No. So he was stubborn and basically hung up the phone on me. I went over in the next day. Sure enough, the TV was messed up, but he was so out of it. He said, you know what, forget the TV, take me back to the emergency room. And this is a day after he came back. And I said, well, hold on and pump your brakes here. What's going on? Because I didn't want to be unempathetic to him, but he kept telling me how he was feeling better and better, and then him wanting to go to the emergency room kind of came out of nowhere. I know, LaFonda, you were surprised too. And I was asking him about his symptoms because I had the discharge paperwork, which was like the size of a fucking novel, and he didn't have any of the symptoms. And I was asking him, "Do you think it's mental and you're just not dealing with the pain tolerance?" And he said, "No, no, no. Let's go to the emergency room, but let me have a cup of coffee and do all these things, And I said, "Okay." So I'm waiting around for him for about an hour, hour and a half as he shuffles around the house, and then he decides not to go to the emergency room because he feels like he's okay. But then 20 minutes later, he changes his mind. And then he walks around outside, comes back in, changes his mind, wants to stay home. Then finally, he said, let's go to the emergency room. And so that's how I spent, I believe, my whole Friday or Saturday last week. I don't remember. It was all a blur. And I tell you, being at the Swedish emergency room on a Friday or Saturday, I saw some wild shit. I saw some outright racism by the security and police out there, which is absurd and unfortunately not that surprising. Long story short, this young black kid, when my father and I arrived, he was leaving. And he looked kind of upset, but he wasn't like causing a scene. He just looked upset. But whatever, I didn't think much about it until later on. He came back about 40 minutes later. He came back in saying, "Hey, I followed your guys' instructions. I went back to the front of the hospital." Now, side note, I don't know if y'all know the Swedish hospital's layout, but it's a clusterfuck to walk to the front of the hospital, the main entrance, and the emergency room. It's a long-ass walk. So, apparently, he went to the emergency room first. He was trying to drop off something for a family member or a friend that's in the ER. He was told that his friend or family member was not at the emergency room. They were getting prepped for surgery someplace at the hospital. So he was told to walk to the hospital and follow their instructions, which he did. Well, at the front entrance, they said, "No, no, no. Your friend or family member is actually still in the emergency room." So he, rightly so, getting upset, walked back to the ER to tell him what he was just told. And then, this is not the same front desk emergency room person he talked to originally because that would be too easy. She told him, "Well, I don't have anything here regarding, so let me go ahead and make a call or something." And then now he was getting a little frustrated. She made a quick phone call. There was a little bit of confusion, and I'm not actually sure what the outcome was in terms of where his friend or family was, but she told him something that was not to his liking, and he said, "Look, all I'm trying to do is drop off a phone charger so this person can charge their phone when they come out of surgery and call me." That's all he was trying to do. He's like, "Where is this person? I just want to drop it off." And they said, "Well, if he's in surgery, blah, blah, blah." He's like, "I don't care. Can I drop it off in the room?" Now the kid's starting to get a little loud, which I do not blame him. But this is where he crossed the line in terms of customer service. Myself, I don't care. He dropped a few F-bombs. So now you have a young black male yelling or raising his voice. He wasn't really yelling, but he was raising his voice at opportune times, and he threw in the occasional fuck. He wasn't calling anybody a motherfucker or a fucker. He just said, "You want me to fucking go here?" No one knows what the fuck's going on. I mean, all of his complaints were valid. All of his complaints were extremely valid. But then someone in the back who must have worked security stood up and said, "Hey, you need to calm down," which is not something you tell someone who's freaking out like that. And he said, "No one talking to you. Shut the fuck up." Which, you didn't have to say that last bit, but he's upset. And so then the second person started talking shit to him. And then he got up, realized there was a security person who beep, beep, called in policemen who were just around the corner. And so now this kid is now understanding what's going on. But he said, "Fuck it." He repeats again, "All I want to know is where is this person so I could drop off this phone charger. Can I give you the phone charger and you do something about it?" But now he's very loud and dropping some fucks. And now he's yelling directly at the second individual who butted in when it really was unnecessary. But once the police got there, that was ridiculous. The black kid's like, "What are you doing here? I'm trying to drop off a cell phone charger, man." And the cops like, "Oh, we heard there was a disturbance. There was raised voices." And the black kid said, "Raised voices? These motherfuckers are wasting my time. I'm trying to help out someone that's here." And again, all of his requests were not over the line at all. He was being run around at the hospital where people are already stressed, especially if they have a loved one or somebody at the fucking emergency room and they're not getting straight answers. And so the kid said, fuck it, I'll go back to the front entrance of the hospital. So he turned to leave, and then the security was walking him out. And he said, you fucking walking me out? I said, fuck you, man. Ain't no one trying to mess with you. And the guy said, I'm just trying to do my job to the kid. He said, fuck your job, man. So then he left the ER, and then the cops were following him, and I could hear him yelling, why are you fucking following me? I'm trying to go to the fucking entrance of the hospital. And he was getting harassed by two cops. One was a white guy, and the other one was something, I don't know, Asian, Samoan, fuck if I know. And the security guy, I don't know what the fuck he was, but none of the race matters. But the point being, there's a young black kid trying to do something reasonable and getting the runaround, which, hey, getting runaround at a hospital ain't nothing new. But the way that the staff handled it compared to other people that I saw a young white couple that kind of were getting run around as well, and the husband kind of threw a tizzy fit, and someone yelled at him about something, and the guy said, hey man, I'm just trying to figure out who to talk to here. And then they escorted him through like a hallway to go back to the hospital. They didn't offer that to the black kid. That's all I'm saying. I tried making that long story short, and I failed. So my father was at the emergency room for about 4 hours in total. Nothing was wrong. What he wanted them to do, they said they did not want to do because it was unnecessary, and so it was pretty much all mental. So that kind of shook my dad a little bit, but we were able to stop and get his medicine that he was prescribed. And I think I took him to the post office to drop off something. I don't know. But that was a couple days ago. I went to video only for him, bought him a newer TV, brought it to his house, set it all up, turned it on. That fucking TV was broken. Out of the fucking box it was broken. And of course, my father thought this was the ending of all things. You know, he had to live the last 2 to 3 days without any television in the living room, God forbid. And so I went back to video only, got another TV. This time we tried it at the actual store. It worked, and I went back to his house, and now it's working A-okay. So I'm still basically a caretaker here, but at least the patient is able to get around a little bit more. In fact, today was the first day in about 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, that I didn't have to go to my father's house to take care of it or to go to his house to see him and take care of him. So kind of a big day for me, which is probably why I have the energy and the mental capacity to do a podcast. So that's the update with the old man. Let's see, the update on the dating life. Not much is new. I finally have come to terms with the fake accounts that are the majority of Asian women on these dating apps. At least the ones that say they're directly from an Asian country but are living in America. Those ones, I gotta say 99.99 times repeating, are fake ass bullshit accounts. Now, if they're American Asian, the mass majority of them tend to be real, I have found. But I really hated to bite the bullet because I didn't want to judge an entire race of people on a dating app as, you know, liars or fraudsters or what have you. But I'm pretty much 0 for 25, I believe. So you have to start connecting the dots and understand, well, it's not actually racism more than reality here. So besides that, not much is going on there. I don't really have any dates planned that I'm aware of. A little funny thing, Bumble, I saw that I had a connection with the girl that looked pretty familiar to me, and I realized it was the first girl I connected with on my latest Bumble round a couple months ago, and she kind of told me off because I told her I wasn't really feeling a connection, and because she didn't want to meet, and she told me off basically saying she doesn't want to meet someone who doesn't want to meet her, which I found laughable because I was trying to schedule a date with her for about 2 weeks and she always had something come up. So finally when I said, this ain't worth it, I'm trying to meet you and it's not working, it shouldn't be this hard to schedule a date, she then accused me of not wanting to really meet her. So strange. I don't know how we got reconnected again, which means she had to have deleted and remade another account, which is fishy as fuck. And I must have been horny or stoned or drunk or all three or two of those things and swiped right on her again. And she said, hey, remember me? It took me a minute, and I realized who it was, and I said, "Oh shit, I don't want to talk to this one." But I was polite, and I said, "Oh, what's been going on? What have you been up to?" Blah 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 blah. Then she was kind of showing off to me about all these things she did, and I remembered when I was talking to her, she also said she was doing all these wild things like skydiving and scuba diving and shit, but she also didn't have a car. So I didn't understand how you're doing all these amazing things, but you have no car. It must be very expensive getting Ubers or cabs, or you must have a great family and friends that are picking you up and driving you everywhere. Because she was in her 30s. It's not like she was young or anything. You know, most people in their 30s have cars. So I talked to her a little bit, but then once she started showing off, I said, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad you're doing good, and good luck out there." And I deleted it. She wrote back something, and I didn't want to read it. And I deleted it and blocked it. I didn't want to mess with it again. You know, I didn't want to mess with her again. And ironically, I don't know why I don't think of these like head games or mind game things. Like I don't think of actions as having a second ulterior motive, or you know what I'm talking about. Like most things I do, I'm not trying to sneak or hide something. Like if I'm nice to somebody, the vast majority of the time I don't have a ulterior motive or to try to get something out of that person by just being nice. Well, I was nice to you here, so now you can do me a favor now. I'm not like that. Most Italians are. Most of us are scummy bags, but, hey, we try. So anyway, I saw on Instagram a few days ago an ex-girlfriend, lady friend, whatever. The relationship didn't last that long. It was fun while it lasted, but, there just wasn't a connection there. And for whatever reason, I think Instagram is trying to instigate bullshit in my life because I have not seen this girl pop up on my Instagram feed since we broke up. I assumed she blocked or deleted me on everything. I did not delete or block her because I didn't feel like we ended things on bad terms, but she was very unhappy. I was more, hey, I'm being honest and I'm sorry you're hurt. And so I saw that she was celebrating her birthday. And kindness overtook me, and I sent her a quick DM saying happy birthday. That's all it was. But again, Instagram had never shown me her post before. So fuck you, Instagram, for starting what later shit came. Because she wrote back, "Thank you. How are you doing?" or something. And we exchanged pleasantries and nothing major. Like, I hope you're having a good time. I hope you have a fun birthday. Blah, 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 blah. And then she said something about, "Oh, by the way, I blocked you on here because I was hurting from the breakup," which I didn't know she blocked me. And I just, "Oh, that's no worries. It was, it was hard for both of us. It was hard for me as well." And then she wrote back, "No, it wasn't. It wasn't hard for you at all." And then she said that I was a liar. And she listened to one of my podcasts where I was talking about the ending of the relationship. And she said I was making up things. And I really wasn't. I was very truthful, as I always am on this podcast and with people. And I told her, no, it was because there still wasn't connections, the same things, whatever. That's what I was saying on the podcast. But I told her on Instagram, forget this. I just wanted to wish you happy birthday. I'm not getting into all this with you. Have fun. Even when I'm trying to be nice to people, I'm getting shit on. But, maybe I shouldn't be nice to people where we have a failed relationship in the past. Maybe I don't think ahead like that. I think everyone still likes me, or that we were all on good terms, even though something bad did happen. So maybe I have to pick my battles, or pick my. It's not really a battle if I'm wishing someone good or something positive. But then the next day, she sent me a funny video of a woman clipping a cat's claws, and the cat was fighting back, and it was a funny video, and she said, "Oh, that's you and LaFonda." So I don't know. I think it's all good, though. It's all good. I wish her no ill will. What else has been going on? Oh, I should have talked about this a while ago, but I made the rounds of all the new movies, the big new movies streaming lately. I think I talked briefly about Black Widow. But the other two movies I wanted to talk about briefly, my recap or my opinion, are the HBO movie No Sudden Move with Don Cheadle and Benicio del Toro. Is that directed by Soderbergh? Yes, that was directed by Steven Soderbergh. David Harbour is also in it from Stranger Things. John Hamm has a small part in it. And same thing with one of the Culkin brothers, Kieran, and even Brendan Fraser's in it. I haven't seen Brendan Fraser in anything since the Mummy movies, so good for you, man. Overall, the movie was a big old meh. I give it a C, C minus. The first 20 minutes were very good. I would actually say quite good. But then it went off the rails. Unbelievable things started to happen. Backstabbings would just be happening for the sake of it. Convoluted plot. Just because something is a surprise doesn't mean it should have been a surprise. So, overall, I would check it out if you are a fan of Don Cheadle or Benicio del Toro. Personally, I'm a fan of BDT. Overall, I'm a Don Cheadle fan, but this is one of the better Don Cheadle performances I've seen. So, if you like those two guys, check it out. But if you're not a fan of theirs enough to watch a movie, I would just say skip the motherfucker. And surprisingly, a movie that I enjoyed way more than I thought I would was the Chris Pratt movie, The Tomorrow War. Now, the trailer made it look like an action movie, which it kind of is, but not as much as the trailer told us it would be. In fact, the trailer made the movie out to be something completely it wasn't. And if you've seen Tomorrow War, then maybe you will agree, it's really 3 movies in one. You have the first 40 minutes or so learning about the fucking future, training, and getting the history of what's going on. And then it jumps right ahead to the fucking war, and you're like, holy shit, we're 15, 20 minutes into the movie. They're already talking about the war. So then it takes place like we're months into the war. So all of this like weird backstory, but also fast forwarding through time and like jump skipping things. And that was really the shocking part of the movie, is like, holy shit, this isn't what the movie was supposed to be. That's really the first phase of the movie. And and then the second part is when the main character actually goes to the future, discovers, I don't think it's a shocker, but the main scientist there, I called it in the trailer, and the buddies I watched it with, we all kind of called it, his grown-up daughter. Spoiler, I guess I should have said. And then that's kind of the second movie. And then the third movie is what happens when they come back from the war. Now they're back in present day, and then J.K. Simmons shows up out of nowhere. He was in one scene, and now he's in all of the final parts of the movie. And it goes off the rails. It's very unbelievable, and the acting leaves much to be desired. However, it's pretty damn entertaining. I gotta say, the action overall was pretty good. The CGI was good, because this movie does have a lot invested in the CGI, as they have to with the creatures in it, the monsters, if you will. Some of the side characters, the B, C, D level characters, Chris Pratt, I thought would be better in a movie like this, but he was still kind of out of his territory, in my opinion. But overall, I give it probably a C, C+. It was pretty entertaining. I'm happy I watched it. It's a little long, and it kind of drags on into the unbelievable, fantastical realm, but you know what? Fuck it. If you want to have a good action escapism movie with a little bit more science and scientist jargon thrown in, surprisingly, check out Tomorrow War. Tomorrow War or Future War? I always get that title mixed up. The Tomorrow War, that's right. But with that, let's move on to some topics here. What about them Seattle Mariners, baby? Mitch Haniger just won Player of the Week, the first week after the All-Star break. Now, in years past, well, really, I would say 5 out of the last 7 seasons, the Mariners have been completely out of the playoff contention by the All-Star break or shortly thereafter. However, this year, surprise, surprise, a team that many didn't pick to even win 70 games is sitting at 50-44, which is a lot better than 99% of baseball fans, I would argue, would have predicted before the beginning of the season. They're only 6.5 out of first in the West and 3.5 out of the wild card. Now, I really don't think we're going to make the playoffs still, because I think we're just not built for long-term success yet. I could be wrong. I thought we'd be out of it by now. But we're 6 games above 500. And surprise, surprise, we've had some players step up and really carry the team when some of the veterans or some of the prospects really didn't pan out. We're getting healthier. The pitching is still pretty sketch. I think if we are going to do anything at the trade deadline, I would hope that we would pick up 1 or 2 pitchers, preferably a starting pitcher and a reliever. although I wouldn't turn my nose up at 2 starting pitchers. Justice Sheffield and Marco Gonzalez have really been pretty shitty this year. And Justin Dunn has been hurt for a little while, and so that kind of messed up his progress. Although Kikuchi, Flexen, and Logan Gilbert, and is there another one? I'm drawing a blank. I know we have a bullpen game every now and then, but what I'm trying to say is I think we're overperforming. We may actually finish the year with a winning record, which would be a huge success. And if we weren't in probably the second most difficult division in baseball, I think we'd actually have a legitimate chance of making the playoffs. But we're sitting at 50 wins as I'm speaking now. We just started a series against the Rockies. Now, 50 wins would be in second place in the Central and third place in the East, but you would be a little bit closer to the wild card if you were in the East. The AL West has 3 teams above 500, and the 4th team, the Angels, are only 2 games under. We have arguably the most difficult division in the American League. National League is a whole other monster. They have the best division in baseball is at National League West. Both West divisions in both leagues are just the fire division. With the National League West, by the way, San Francisco, LA, Dodgers, and the San Diego Padres all have winning records, and they're above 10, 12, 13 games above 500. Then you got the Rockies and Arizona bringing up the rear, because who do you think they're all beaten up on? But it really is a shocker to me to see the Mariners still in playoff contention this far into the season. We promoted one of my favorite prospects, the catcher, Kyle Raleigh. He hasn't really looked good as of yet. We may have rushed him because of injury, so we may actually demote him soon, which I think we probably should do. We brought Kellenic back up, and he's had three games in a row. He's had a 3-game hitting streak. I think I mentioned Mitch Haniger won Player of the Week, and Kyle Seager comes through the clutch. We have Jake Bauer coming through the clutch every now and then. Luis Torrens, the catcher that I gave up on, has really come through lately. And Graverman's been pitching good. Logan Gilbert was lights out against the Yankees and against the Angels. I mean, I'm looking forward to this team going forward, and I really think we nailed the draft. We picked a lot of high school players in the Major League Baseball draft last week, which the Mariners haven't done in about 4 to 5 drafts. We always pick college talent because our minor league system was so shit for so long, we had nothing. But now, since we've had 4 drafts in a row where we went really heavy with proven college talent, and a lot of those kids are up at AA, we decided, you know what, we don't really have much coming up after them. Let's kind of rebuild, but instead of picking college kids that are going to start, at AA, let's fill out the rookie and low A so we really have long-term prospects, progress, and all that stuff. And that's exactly what we did. I think 8 out of the first 10 picks were high school players, which shocked a lot of people, but I like the strategy. Speaking of draft, we're going to quickly switch over to the Kraken. I believe the expansion draft is either tonight or tomorrow. I should figure that out if it's tonight. Super pumped for what we're going to do. I don't know dick about dick when it comes to hockey. I looked at some of the players that were up for the expansion draft, and of course I don't know anybody from anyone on that list, but I'm going to trust the experts. I saw what the field's going to look like, what the locker room looks like. I like the jerseys. I'm just pumped to have a new sports franchise in the city. I do miss basketball. I really do. And until we get the Sonics back, I'm really going to embrace the Kraken. I like the Sounders and I like the Storm. And of course I follow the Seahawks and the Mariners religiously. But I believe if we ever do get the Sonics back, that will be my jam again. Speaking of the NBA, surprise, surprise, I have not talked a lot about it because I just assumed one of these dream team, every single player starting as a Hall of Famer super teams. I don't like super teams, and that's why I kind of don't follow basketball anymore. But when I saw that the teams that made it to the finals were Milwaukee and Phoenix, at first I thought, shit, not the Lakers, not the Nets, not the, what the fuck's the other monster team? Is it Golden State? I don't even remember anymore. But, I mean, Phoenix and Milwaukee. I look at these rosters. I don't know anybody besides Chris Paul on the Suns. I've heard of Devin Booker, but I don't know anything about him. And then I look at the Bucks. I, of course, know that Giannis Antetokounmpo, I know I probably butchered his name, but apologies. That guy is a monster of a player. I mean, that guy's a generational talent. If you guys want to see a really good story, check out the story of Giannis in I believe it was 2020, a couple months back. It was a big episode that had Stormy Daniels talking about Trump's mushroom dick. The second story that followed that was the Giannis story. But as I look now, it's the sixth game, and Milwaukee's 1 win away, and they're playing in Milwaukee, and that's who I'm pulling for. I don't dislike the Suns. In fact, the Suns haven't won a championship since ever. I really don't know. It's still tragic to me that the Charles Barkley Suns never won anything, and then they had Jason Kidd and they didn't win anything, and Steve Nash and they didn't win anything, and so this team really kind of deserves it. And plus, I don't think Chris Paul has a title to his credit. But the Bucks, dude, I cannot root against Giannis and that team because I know Milwaukee hasn't done shit in a long time either. That's why this is such a good series. Both of these franchises have more downs than ups, and so you're pulling for both of them. You know, you kind of wish it would be Phoenix or Milwaukee against a super team because then you absolutely know who you're going to pull for. Fucking super teams. But I love the Lakers and the Nets getting bounced. I love that shit. I love it. So here's hoping that the NBA expands the league and adds another team so that we get our Sonics back. Here's hoping that the Kraken expansion draft goes well. And here's hoping the Mariners keep it rolling, you know. I don't know what the score is currently. I think it's 0-0 tonight. But yeah, it's a good time to be a Seattle sports fan. And the Olympics, I don't really have much of an opinion on the Olympics. I think the Olympics are stupid and a waste of money. And I think the Olympic Committee is one of their most corrupt, evil institutions in the world. But I also know that it means a lot to the athletes that take part, whether it means for themselves, their country, and whatnot. But you know, the stupid rules, like they kicked out that black woman, I'm drawing a blank on her name, because she smoked pot because one of her family members died. And you're like, why are they disciplining someone for pot? Pot's not a performance-enhancing drug, you dumb fucks. And, you know, Biden's really shit in the bed because he just went hard against legislation in the House, I believe, that would decriminalize marijuana even more. And it's another pathway to federal deregulation. But, you know, Joe Biden still believes that marijuana will lead to jazz music, and so he's never going to support it. He's not going to do it. So here's hoping that Bernie or maybe some other moderate can talk Biden into something, you know, regarding marijuana. Because if he legalizes marijuana before the midterms, bye-bye Republicans. But anyway, what else? I think we got everything with sports. You know, fuck the Olympics. I could go more into the Olympics and why I dislike them, but there's no point. Go Mariners. Go Seahawks. I guess there's not really much to talk about Seattle. It's the slow time for football. I know that the buildup is now, this could be the last hurrah for Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson together as a combo or as a duo, whatever you want to say. You know, Team Pete and Team Russ. Who knows what the future's going to hold? You know, Pete Carroll signed that extension, and Russell Wilson is saying all the nice things about wanting to stay. But if we don't make the playoffs this year, or if we get a quick exit like we did the last couple seasons, I really think Russell's going to want out. The teams are going to want out because of the salary cap relief coming up with a monster salary cap next season. The salary cap is rising in the 2022 season, so I think a lot of teams are getting ready to spend, and if we can unload Russell Wilson's contract next year, free up some more money, and try to get as many first-round draft picks as we can, I think we're set for the next generation of Seattle Seahawks. That's if Russell Wilson wants out. If we do really good this season, we make the playoffs, and we go deep or win it all, and he wants to retire a Seahawk, that's preferable. That's what I would want. That's ultimately what I think everyone's preferred goal is. But what are you going to do? That's not life, you know. That's not reality. Not a lot of players stick around on one team for their entire career. Of course, you can think of the John Elways, but even the Brett Favres of the world, who it's hard for you to think of Brett Favre and not think of Green Bay Packers, but he played for the Jets and Vikings. And look at Aaron Rodgers, another Packers quarterback. He wants out. And you think of Matt Hasselbeck and Sean Alexander. They all played for different teams. Walter Jones, now there is a guy who stuck around in the entire franchise, his entire career. So anyway, so that's sports. I don't really have much about politics to talk about. I know the Democrats passed that huge infrastructure bill, which I'm in love with for the most part. But there's no point going into it because the Republicans are railing against it. And you know the moderates like the Cinemas and the Munchin cunts of the world, they're going to try to kneecap it a little bit. And there's no point in covering it until it actually hits the floor for a vote. And that's the one that I will maybe do a dive into. Maybe, I don't know. There's no point in doing it now because it's too early in the process is my point. So anyway, there's sports and politics. We are just powering through, baby. And I need to go take a break because my coconut shrimp are about done in the oven, baby. All right, I'm back. The dinner was pretty good. I'm a huge fan of shrimp, and I'm a huge fan of coconut. And when you deep fry the shrimp in coconut batter or you sprinkle some coconut shit on there, and then I have this sweet and sour chili dipping sauce from Trader Joe's, and I get that fucking shrimp and I dip it in that sauce and I put it in my mouth. You don't need sex, but what you need is a good piece of coconut shrimp and some of that sweet chili sauce. That's what it is. My mouth is watering just thinking about it, and I just ate 20 pieces of shrimp drizzled in that shit, and my mouth is like, yeah, bitch, give me more. Oh, it was good. And I'm watching the NBA Finals here. Phoenix starting to pull away in the second quarter, and then Milwaukee closed in the gap a little bit at halftime. Then I took a little bit of a break, and I went back to check before I got on, and it looks like Milwaukee's up again. So good on you, Milwaukee. I'm pulling for you. And I know I said there wasn't much politics to talk about, but there is one thing that I think bears a quick discussion, not a long time, is that either my last podcast or 2 podcasts ago, I went off on the U.S. presidents not getting permission or violating international law and bombing sovereign countries. Well, today I see that the Biden administration bombed somebody in Somalia. So, he was still doing it. The only difference is at least Somalia was like, thanks. I believe that's what happened. Let's see. Biden, Syria. Not Syria. Holy shit. Somalia. There we go. Let's see what comes up here. I read it this morning and I already forgot. U.S. military carries out first airstrike in Somalia under Biden. Yeah, bitch, I just said that. But what? Give me some deets. Oh, it was Al-Qaeda-linked insurgent group Shabab is seeking to topple the government and establish its own rule in Somalia based on its own strict interpretation of Islamic Sharia law. Man, why do they assholes always flock to religion? It's not just Muslim, it's Christian, it's Judaism, it's the miscellaneous ones like Buddhism and whatnot. Well, I don't think there's many assholes in Buddhism. I think the best people that are deeply spiritual belong to Buddhism. I feel like the stronger you get into faiths such as Christianity, Judaism, Islam, is when you start to go off the rails a little bit, in my opinion. In my opinion. To me, religion should be something that is personal. You should hold it dear to yourself. If you want to surround yourself with like-minded people, fantastic. But it's when you start to take something that's personal and start to broadcast it to the world. Yeah, you don't need to do that. We'll protect your right to do it. LaFonda, chill, baby. I know you are my religion, I know. But once you start to broadcast it and make your personality, like there's nothing to you besides your religion, that's when you start to go crazy. So, just give it to yourself. Let it guide your own life. If your religion makes you get out a pen and paper and makes you make a big-ass sign and go stand outside, it's probably the wrong religion and it's not for you. I don't care what faith it is, but if you have to make a sign and go out and disrupt people's days, your religion's wrong. That's all I'm saying. It's wrong. You're wasting everybody's time, and especially your own. So, we're still bombing shit. But I don't know enough about what's going on in Somalia, so I guess I'll say good job, Joe Biden. Kill Al Qaeda, I guess. But, you just keep throwing fuel on the fire. You just keep killing people, and then those people's families want to kill people, and it's just keeps going. But then again, you can't just stand pat and let the world burn. I mean, you can, I suppose. It's not your problems what goes on in Somalia or Syria or, Libya. But when you're directly involved, like you start the shit, you can't start the fire, call the fire department, and then stand back and tell the police and firemen, I'm not sure what the fuck happened. This is crazy. We should investigate as you're holding the match and gasoline can. Come on. You can only do that so long before they start to catch on. So, anyway, what the hell was I want to talk about here? Let me pull up my notes. Let's see here. Oh, yes, there's a hypothetical question that I thought of. But I wrote it so long ago, I want to see if it still sparks any kind of, fun conversation here. How good are you? Hypothetical question. Okay, goodness, righteousness. Are you brave? Are you a hero? That kind of shit. Well, Fonda, chill. Fine, you can take part in the question too. Christ almighty. The question goes, would you give a complete stranger you meet at the ATM $100? Okay, so will you give a complete stranger $100 outside an ATM? Okay. Maybe his wife is in jail and needs bail money. He needs baby diaper money. Make up what other story he or she tells you, and I want you to envision what this person looks like. Envision how you would feel meeting this person. Would anyone actually give them $100? I think I would. Well, when I wrote this, I certainly would. I mean, it's kind of a dumb fuck question, honestly. And if I ever get a chance to talk to my past self, I will kick him in the balls for posing this dumb question here. I mean, a lot goes into this hypothetical here. First off, what kind of state is the person in? If they're doped up on God knows what, and they're all bleeding and fucked up looking, and they're drooling and foaming at the mouth, and one eye's sticking out, and you can actually see the stink coming off of them, and when they talk, it's like Godzilla's breath is spewing out, and they're like, hey, gotta get some money. Well, then no, you're gonna run for your fucking life before you catch whatever they got. You know what I'm saying? But if the person runs over, they're like, holy shit, man, there's an emergency going on. My wife's going into labor. I need some money for whatever. You could kind of gauge the situation. But, you kind of got to look around, make sure that the person isn't, hands in the pocket holding something or, got a gun or a knife or some shit. A lot of things goes into this. But if you don't see any kind of red alerts and you can kind of gauge through your own ways whether or not this person is a safe person, let alone an honest person, I would think the mass majority of people would. If they could do it. Now, $100 is a lot of fucking money to some people. And I'd like to think I would. It's not the money. It's more or less, do I want to get lied to? That's the big caveat there. But at the end of the day, if you give someone some charity and you truly meant it to be something positive and to help them, you actually have empathy and compassion towards that individual, I think that's all that really matters. Now, once that individual gets your gift of charity, this hypothetical $100, if they were lying to you and actually go out and get smack or whatever street drugs are called these days, that's not really on you, is it? You did your part. You believed them. You're a good person. Are you an ignorant person? I think it depends. If I saw somebody and I could see that, holy shit, this person's nothing but trouble, but then my friend says, they're fine, and gives them $100, and then not 30 seconds later you see that individual buying drugs from somebody, you could kind of tell your friend, well, that's what you get for not having no street sense. But everyone can be fooled. But I think that's a larger problem in this country, is that people think that everybody else is more ignorant than they are. everyone likes to look down on everybody else, specifically when it comes to financial standing. And it's not good. It's not wise, because you start to disengage from humanity. You start to develop a gap between you and other humans. You know, whether you want to believe it or not, we all are of one species. And we have to not only live in the same world, but we have to make it work. You know what I'm saying? Whether it be hatred or racism or sexism, because in the long run, people, what's the fucking point? We're all in this together. We all have to breathe the same air, drink the same water. It's all connected. However, after saying all that, here's what I do know. At least personally, here's what I do know about myself. If I know anything about myself, I know this to be true. I have, initially, an innate lack of respect for most people. It's not something I'm proud of, but it is something that I know about myself. Because when you first meet someone, who is this person? Who the fuck are they? Why should I respect their opinions or their viewpoints on anything? They're fucking strangers to me. But of course, I think what salvages me as a human is that I quickly get over that belief. And doesn't mean I respect the individual, but at least I work towards it. And I think that's a good way to wrap up that stupid hypothetical question. Yeah. But before I forget, I should have talked about this when I was ranting about sports. I've discovered a really good YouTube channel dedicated to sports moments, sports stories, trivia. It's called Secret Base, and I know I've talked about it on the podcast before, but I've been addicted to it lately, even more so than in the past. If you remember, I've talked about the Seattle Mariner history they did. It was about 3 hours combined in a couple episodes. If you're a Mariners fan, like your boy here, a long-suffering poor bastard, like most of Seattle Mariner fans are, check out the Secret Base review of the Seattle Mariner history. I believe it's called Dorktown, and it's a very fitting name. And with that, I think we can wrap this mofo up. Presently, the Bucks are leading in the fourth quarter, and the Mariners are leading in Colorado. So it's a win-win-win, baby. And so I hope everyone takes it easy. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Also, please take it sleazy. And treat others as you want to be treated, and all that other goodwill that I spew out every week that I hope some of you listen and actually reciprocate, but who knows? I'm only one man. And on that happy note, I'll see you guys around the bend. Bucks win, baby. They pulled it out at home. I love to see sport teams win after lengthy absences from the title. You know, the Mariners have never won the World Series in their, 40-something year. Jesus, it's been that long. It's been over 40 years. Damn, the Seattle Mariners have been around that long and haven't won shit. It's crazy. There's a lengthy absence, and the Milwaukee Bucks haven't won since the mid-'70s, I believe. So almost a century. And that fucking Giannis Antetokounmpo, I apologize, I am awful. I'm butchering his name. I mean, he had one of the best performances you will ever see in NBA history. 50 points, 5 blocks, 14 rebounds, and he was supposed to miss the fucking series. I mean, it's crazy. His story is perfect. I'm loving it, man. Way to go,